As always, please like and subscribe to Anything Agriculture so I can keep making content for you and your homestead. Welcome to Species ID of Cool Season Grasses. I've set this video up so that you can stop the video and read and have a written account of the things I'm talking about each species of forage that I'm talking about. There is a little ID thing. In another video, I'm going to talk about how to identify individual grasses, like what steps you need to take to actually identify the grass. This is going to be identifying cool season grasses that you can fit into your rotational grazing. So what do we need to know about forages going into our rotational grazing? First, we're going to need to know ID. That's the first thing we're going to have to try and ID our grasses. Second, quality. Is it a high quality forage or a low quality forage? Yield. Does it yield a lot of forage or does it yield slowly over time? Establishment. Does it establish quickly and you can get a flush of green fast, or does it take some time to establish and is more of a long-term investment? Soil type. Does it work well with your soil type? Persistence. Is it plant once and done, or do you have to replant it every couple years? Palatability. When is it most palatable for your animals, and when will your animal actually like it? And weather resistance. Is it drought tolerant? Can it handle wet conditions? All these are very important to fit into your rotational grazing system. I wanted to start this video off with talking about Kentucky bluegrass. Kentucky bluegrass is the one forage that almost everybody understands and knows, and that's because it is a very good choice for forage. It is very palatable, so most of your animals will eat it. It tolerates cold and heat if it's very well established. It tolerates close grazing. This grass has been said to be the Cadillac of forages. Since Kentucky bluegrass is seen as the Cadillac of forages, it is the gold standard for grazing, and that's because it has excellent quality. Some of the problems with it is that it doesn't yield very much forage, so you don't get Kentucky bluegrass hay often because it just doesn't yield that much. Once it's established, it can be hard to establish, and it doesn't really like drought conditions, but it doesn't really do well in poorly drained soils. So it's kind of a fair weather fan, but when it likes where it is an excellent forage. Orchard grass is a tried and true, time-honored tradition for forages. This forage has been used for well over 200 years. It gets its name because it was grown under tree orchards and were grazed by animals, and hence the name orchard grass. Orchard grass makes a very good quality forage. Lots of animals will eat it. That's not the problem. You can find different types of orchard grass. The late maturing works really well when you add legumes. It can handle a wide variety of soil pHs, so to a little bit acidic, to a little bit basic. And there are some varieties now that are excellent disease-resistant varieties. Canary reed grass is a very interesting grass for forages. It is good for grazing. It creates hay opportunities when other pastures are having issues. But the one thing about this grass is it really likes to be in wetter sites, and often wetter sites that are otherwise unproductive or cannot be grazed because of that. This canary reed grass could have a place in your rotational grazing. Canary reed grass likes to be in wet areas, but never, ever, ever plant this in a wetland area, or it will take over the entire wetland and you'll lose the natural habitat really, really quickly. The other issue is that you need to use a low alkali variety. Low alkali varieties will avoid the issues of like staggers or sudden death in ruminants. With that all being said, canary reed grass is very high yielding and very palatable to livestock. Almost everything likes it. And it is a very long-lived perennial, so reseeding it is something you may not have to do for a while. Here I'm going to talk about perennial ryegrass. This ryegrass is not related to the cereal grain, and that is very important because cereal grain ryegrass is going to grow differently and is not a great forage. But perennial ryegrass is very common. A lot of people grow perennial ryegrass, and it is a great forage. So if you have a pasture or renovating a pasture, there's a good chance you already have perennial ryegrass in your pasture. This perennial ryegrass lives for multiple years. It's suitable for pastures. It's excellent forage. It yields really high. You can use it for hay. It's very palatable. Most animals will eat it. It thrives in temperate climates like the Midwest, and it establishes very easily. So now I want to talk about annual ryegrass. Annual ryegrass is different from perennial ryegrass because annual, as it says in its name, only lasts for 1 year. It is very high yielding. It grows really fast. It's also known as Italian ryegrass. Annual ryegrass is also often used as a cover crop. As I said before, annual ryegrass dies out in one season. It is a very, very rapid growth. It likes a lot of different types of soil. This is really good for some quick forage production. If that is what something you need, this is a really great way to do this. It's also a great way to extend a grazing season because it does put on so much forage so quickly. Let's talk about smooth brome grass. Smooth brome grass is a cool season grass introduced to the United States from Hungary in 1884. It's been here a long time and a lot of people have used it for forages. When it is young, it is very highly palatable. It has great drought tolerance because of its huge root system, and it is a very long-lived perennial. Smooth brome grass is highly palatable to cattle and sheep when it is young. When it matures, it becomes a little bit less palatable, and it does take some time to recover after grazing. So it is really good to put in a rotational grazing system. It's also very, very compatible with other legumes and pasture mixes. And because of its large root system, this is a great forage to put into places that need erosion control, like hills or embankments. Also, it is very, very drought tolerant because of its huge root system. I'm going to talk about tall fescue, and that's because if you're in Indiana, you have tall fescue somewhere. Everybody has tall fescue. It is super drought tolerant. It is very persistent. It is great for grazing. You can hay it, you can graze it, you can stockpile it. Beef cattle really do well on it. And sometimes it's not ideal for like dairy cattle because of the endophyte issue. If you have a pasture in Indiana, I'm going to guess you've got tall fescue. Tall fescue is everywhere. It is very common, it's super long lived, it is super drought tolerant. It handles a variety of soils, it handles more acidic and poorly drained soils, and it is very tolerant of overgrazing. The only issue that I've seen that's a real problem with tall fescue is that it may have endophytes, especially if you have very old pasture. Endophytes can cause complications in pregnancy, can cause low performance in your animals if you have a endophyte infected variety. Now, there are low and no endophyte varieties available on the market. So if you want to put in tall fescue into your pastures, you will want to choose a no or low endophyte variety. Timothy grass. Timothy grass is one of those forages that everything likes. It's very, very palatable. It can be hayed. The hay is really high quality. The one thing that's cool about Timothy grass is it has a very, very large root system and can be used for erosion control. And also it can be used for wildlife conservation because a lot of wildlife also like Timothy grass. Well, Timothy grass is a fantastic forage because it's very palatable to like everything that grazes loves it. It is a late maturing cool season grass, so sometimes it's coming up right when some of the earlier cool season grasses are winding down. Its longevity is an issue, though. It lasts about 2 to 4 years. It is winter hardy, so it's not usually winter kill, but it just doesn't last that long. Um, and it's not very drought tolerant. Even though it has a great root system, is great for erosion control, it is a shallow root system. And so it doesn't like to be closely grazed. It doesn't like being with alfalfa very well. So there are some issues with using Timothy, but it can be a very, very effective forage in your rotational grazing. Thank you for watching. I hope this has helped you learn more about forages and rotational grazing. I will have some more videos coming out with warm season grasses and how to identify grasses. So please like and share and subscribe for more tips and tricks for your small farm homestead. I hope you found this helpful for your small farm homesteading dreams. And as always, please like and subscribe to Anything Agriculture so I can continue to make content that matter to you.